YouTube, my name is Mesa and welcome back to another Destiny 2 video. Alright folks, we've got I think a bombshell of a news article to go over from PC Gamer. My friend Tim Clark over at PC Gamer, he is the brand director, he DM'd me today and he said, hey, you need to check this out. And it was a Reddit thread that also linked to the article, and the Reddit thread was titled, Luke Smith and Mark Noseworthy interview with PC Gamer, quote, we want to pick a corner and stand on it. Let's not worry about Joe Walmart. Now, Tim Clark from PC Gamer, he is the one that conducted this interview, and then they turned it into a full feature on PC Gamer, which just came out a few hours ago. But they talk about a few other things like their independence from Activision, how major design mistakes happen, preparing for life without Vicarious Visions, and High Moon Studios, you know, these side studios that came along with Activision to help out with Destiny 2. They discussed the business model for 2020, and also they even mentioned how strikes are not being valuable enough, and a whole bunch of other things. So let's get into it, folks. Now, I'm going to read some of it verbatim, but then there's a number of sections I got to paraphrase because there's a lot of information in here, and I want to chime in and give you some of my take on some of these points. But well, first off, Mark Noseworthy kicks off that, you know, Destiny 2 as a whole, well, it's really a marathon, and that they're a perpetual motion machine. But then Luke Smith kind of stops him and says, well, it's like a marathon, but also not like a marathon. Why? Well, because marathons, they do have to come to an end. Now, Luke Smith is hinting at something because he did say something to that effect at E3 in one of the interviews where he said, we have to come to some sort of finale. That's why I'm thinking for Destiny 2, we'll eventually get a Destiny 3. I mean, we're going to go through the article, but I think we're going to get a Destiny 3. Now, most of us would like them to just keep adding on to Destiny 2, but guys, that's going to be way too much data to put on a console. Now, granted, PCs probably can handle anything, but on a console, the bigger the file is and the more they add, it's just, I don't think it's feasible. They're going to have to eventually come to a close with Destiny 2 and move on to hopefully Destiny 3. Moving along here, Shadowkeep marks a new chapter in Destiny 2's epic history. Its banner feature is a new free roam area that reimagines one of the first game's finest and most beloved destinations. And remember guys, at E3 they said numerous times that yeah, we're going back to the moon, but it will be double in size. In some ways, it's a statement about the heritage of the series, and so it's rather symbolic that Shadowkeep is also the first true fruit of Bungie split from Activision. And now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of not having Activision around. The obvious change that Independence puts on Destiny is that it no longer enjoys whatever financial support Activision afforded it. Now, month on month, Destiny has to pay its own bills to keep its lights on. And Mark Noseworthy says, it's a little scary to be honest. We don't have a safety net. And now every problem lies purely at Bungie's feet. There are no Activision business suits for anyone to blame. Not that Smith says he feels any more or less pressure than before, and he says, quote, I've always felt it anyway, because however the way things go, we're going to be held responsible for it. So splitting with Activision wasn't like something new like, oh, S-H-I-T, if we really screw up, we'll really know how. Yeah, I'm not cursing, guys. I don't want to get demonetized. Moving along here, there is a new sense, however, that even if Destiny 2 bears even greater pressure to perform, the game has hit kind of a middle-aged maturity that's given Smith and Noseworthy the opportunity to reflect on what exactly Destiny is. After all, while it's defined as a hybrid genre and set the bar that other games from Anthem on up have attempted to match, it has a mixed up identity. Mark Noseworthy says, are we a AAA blockbuster retail game for Walmart? Are we Diet Halo? Are we World of Warcraft with guns? We've been tossing this around for a very long time. We want to pick a corner and stand on it. Let's not worry about Joe Walmart, like someone who buys GTA and one other game. We don't want to be that other one game. That person doesn't want Destiny. They're not going to marry Destiny the way we want players to marry it, you know? Now that's a bold statement, and I mean bold statement, that's a Pulp Fiction line. That's a bold statement, but I think that's a good statement and good news for us as Destiny players. Because if we think about it, The casual's going to play Destiny New Light, the free version, and if they want to get hardcore, well, they can choose to buy a la carte the DLC expansions. But they're catering to the hardcores, and that's good, because let's face it, Destiny New Light, and I keep wanting to say First Light, Destiny New Light is going to be for the casuals. Jump in, roam around some destinations, play the Year 1 content, shoot some aliens, and have some fun. But if you really want to marry this game, which us as, and I'm sure the viewers out there are saying, we want to marry this game. We love this game. We want to get in depth. We want it hardcore. So I'm excited about this, guys. Now they're going to talk a little bit about the annual pass. So for Noseworthy, Destiny is at root a hobby, and now with a frankly bewildering list of activities to play, it really feels like one. I mean, that's true. When I log in, there's too many things to do. I can't get them all done on all 3 characters for sure. It's big enough for you to take from it what you want. Its systems are both relaxed and taut enough so that you can play as little or as much as you like, and it's constantly changing. Much of that sense of change is down to the annual pass, which was Bungie's first stab at introducing regular general change in the game rather than occasional big changes of the expansions. And Luke Smith says, well, it's staying. The annual pass is the shape that we want things to take. Spread the peanut butter evenly over the bread. He's pretty unconvinced that the big expansions were the best use of Bungie's resources. And he says, you have this burst of content that you consume, and then you're like, well, now what? What if we instead focus the development time on whatever things players like? Now, of course, Bungie can't lean on development support from Activision Studios, High Moon, and Vicarious Visions, and he says, we've been building around that for a while now, Noseworthy assures. But it's clear that Bungie is all about working smartly. Luke Smith says, we have a couple of different teams who make things like dungeons and the 0-hour quest, and maybe those folks are like, we want to make a dungeon, and then when it's been beaten, well, it turns into a strike. And we're like, well, we weren't all thinking about having it as a strike, but that's a sweet plan. Let's go ahead and do that. And he says, Mark and I get squirrely about this stuff because we don't want to overcommit the team. They have so many ideas, and a lot of what we try to do is to edit and curate and mine them. Now, in terms of scale, Luke Smith compares Shadowkeep to the size of Rise of Iron, Destiny 1's final expansion, which I'm happy with. Rise of Iron, well, yeah, the campaign was short, but the content that came along with Rise of Iron, it was a blast. I loved Rise of Iron. And he says also, next year will be more about steadily releasing content along the lines of new modes like Season of Opulence's Menagerie, plus bringing in special quests and other events. Bringing that to bear over weeks rather than like, I'm going to consume this entire mini campaign in one evening and then like, that wasn't worth $20. Then they talk a little bit about design mistakes and they bring up the Niobe Labs puzzle. Do you guys remember that from Black Armory? Let me read you this one. The Black Armory update back in December featured Niobe Labs, the puzzle, which was so convoluted and crucially missing a text string that even the game's most obsessive code crackers drew a blank for days. And more significantly, many players couldn't access its key activity and cooperate Horde mode challenges like Lost Forges until they ground out a bunch of old content to get their extra power. So Mark Noseworthy says, yeah, okay, we touched a hot stove. There was no way for players that were far behind on light, including myself, to play the content. You had to finish everything in the Dreaming City, like you had to play 20 hours before you could get to the first forge, and that felt bad. That felt really bad. Mark continues with, Destiny is more complicated than most games, and he says, we'll be like, oh, let's have this one little system in here, let's do this mechanic this way because something's not working out quite right. And we'll play it for 30 hours, and it's great. But at hour 101, it will blow up and the whole game will be ruined. And we're like, well, were we supposed to see that? Well, we weren't. It seemed like the right choice, and there are 1,000 decisions like that for every release. I'm not trying to absolve us, but it's really hard for us to always know. Lastly, let's move into the business model for Destiny 2 from the go forward. So Mark Noseworthy says, there still is a financial barrier. If I told a friend that he has to jump back in to play the Menagerie, they've got to at least own Forsaken, they've got to complete that, then they have to pay $35 for the annual pass, and well, that sucks. Now we've got a reveal of what the business model is going to be like for year 3, and it's going to be very different from the annual pass that we're used to now. So it's going to be 4 seasons, and each one of them you will be able to buy separately for $10 each. And one season will be included with Shadowkeep. So if you're buying Shadowkeep, you're looking at $30 for the rest of the year, meaning this year 2019. So while the year outside of Shadowkeep will cost much the same as last year's annual pass, which was about $35 outside of the Forsaken expansion, it's a lot more flexible, and the onus is on Bungie to make every new drop appealing enough for us as players to buy each one of those pieces of content for $10. So we'll have to see how that works out, but $10 for each expansion, or little expansions as we'll call it, I think that's not bad. What do you guys think in the comment section? So moving along with the article here. All of this is on top of a vast slab of existing game that Bungie's about to release for free. New Light is a separate release which will comprise of an introductory sequence for new players set in the first Destiny's Cosmodrome, and will give access to all of Destiny 2's base game, as well as its Warmind and Curse of Osiris expansions, plus all of the free roam destination, strikes, all of Gambit, and PvP. Luke Smith says, "We need to keep giving you reasons to champion the game to your friends. We need to keep doing right by our players." And they say, after all, by catering to new players, Bungie could well forget about the old players. And certainly the danger in adding fewer big new things to Destiny 2 is old players are being forced to go back to, say, the Dreaming City over and over to grind their way up each season's new content and level cap. And yeah, 100% agree with that. I really am done with the Dreaming City. I want to do some other things. And Luke Smith says, the Dreaming City is awesome. It's incredible. It's the most beautiful place we've ever made. Yeah, but it does not feel like a great way to gain power for 2 years. He continues with, we want powerful sources to feel like big, important, efficient uses of your time. We want strikes to always be valuable. I think even in the game today at the studio, there's a broad acknowledgement that strikes aren't as valuable as they could be. Not enough reason to play them. And Luke, you 100% are right. Strikes were my favorite thing to just mindlessly grind all day long in Destiny 1, and right now I feel like they're not. You play your 3 or 4 strikes to get your weekly powerful reward, and then you tap out. Luke continues with, players want us to deliver joy to them at least every 3 months, and in a pretty substantial way. But will that really satisfy players? Will that really drive the game and push it forward and create interesting pursuits? And what we need more than anything else is just systems that make you want to chase the thing and make the content that already exists more meaningful. But at least Bungie now knows what Destiny 2 is. And he says, well, Mark Noseworthy says, we are an action MMO that's actually fun to play. Evolving world, play anywhere, anytime. Sound off in the comment section. What do you guys think? If you see a piece of content for $10, well, if you don't like it, are you not going to buy it and then all your friends move along with the game? If they sold everything for the year as a bundle, and that's kind of like the annual pass, but they said they're not doing that. They're selling each season for $10. Would you buy a bundle for $40 if it was 4 seasons in 2020? You guys let me know in the comment section. Leave me a good old hashtag made it to the end if you did make it to the end, and do me a favor. Drop a like in this video only if you see fit. Follow me on Twitter at Mesa Sean. Check out my stream, usually and always on YouTube, and that's it. I am out of here like Vladimir.